And this is where I'm at the end of week 2. Shoe rack, started a bed slash lounge frame, and the majority of the flooring down. Let's kick off this week, get all this bolted, finish off some of the framework, and start squaring up some of the cupboards, see if we can get things making a bit more progress this week. Going to use some M8 riv nuts. So first trial fitment of the kitchen cupboard. Got the brackets mounted on the side of the van to hold it. I've got this framework on the front which is just sitting there at the moment. I need to get the cupboard in place so I can work out exactly where it needs to be. And then I can weld that into the bed frame. And this will all be a one-piece frame by the time I finish. So all this frame is now bolted in. So I've got riv nuts through here. I've picked up a big mounting bolt there, which is one of the old cargo tie-down hook locations. Then on the other end it ties into the cupboard that I've made for the shoe rack there. So we've got a bunch of bolts going through into the wood, and then the wood is bolted down through the floor into, we've got some riv nuts and also onto one of the cargo tie-down points. So it's kind of the first glimpse as to how it's all going to look. Got a little diagonal hallway that's going to go down the middle there, and then the gap down the back here, a rather tight gap, is going to be where the bathroom sits. Looks very small. Fair bit of space underneath the cupboard, and that's where the diesel heater will sit, and then the water pumps, and if there's any space left over I'll put a little door in the end there, and either put a drawer underneath or just have a cupboard, one of the two. Alright, it's Wednesday morning of week 3, so a quick status update as to where I'm at right now. The last 2 days have been spent basically inserting bolts. Who would have thought that could take so damn long, but you know, adding riv nuts into the frame along there and bolting that up. I had to weld a bracket on there to pick up one of the cargo tie-down hooks. I've got my little shoe box which I built last week, a couple of bolts through there, plus into a mounting bracket, one of the tie-down hooks, bolt holes in the back there as well. You know, bolting up this frame onto the shoe box. And then the big task yesterday was doing all the bolts for the kitchen cupboard over there, and also bolting the frame down through the floor as well. It just boggles my mind to believe it's taken me 2 days to put all these bolts in, but it was not an easy process, and trying to, you know, get all the bolts in the right place, get all the riv nuts in, double checking to make sure that I'm not drilling through things, you know, having the appropriate spaces to go through the floor into the steel. It's a big job. Anyway, so that's in temporarily. Obviously this is all going to come out again because you can probably see a bit of a wonky bar there that's just sitting there that needs to be welded in, and the back side of my bed lounge area here needs another strap to come down here. Today's task is to look at putting the hot water tank in. It's not pretty. I lost half my afternoon buying supplies and things. We've got Clark Rubber, Bunnings, the bolt supply shop. I did finally get my pack of polyester insulating bats, so we can get some more of the insulation done. So I spent most of yesterday making up that metal bracket underneath, amongst other things. I had to run out and get a whole bunch of supplies and things, so it was a bit of lost time. And now, wake up in the morning, I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing? Why am I sitting that on top of a steel bracket when I could just bolt the thing straight through the floor? So I've got some bolts welded onto some bits of angle iron which would go up through the floor up to the straps for the water tank. I had to do this anyway, even to hold that silly frame on I just made. That big bit of frame took me a few hours to make. I don't know why it took a few hours. Most of it was just measuring out and getting everything right size wise. Anyway, that's going in the bin. The main reason why I made that was because I was worried about twisting the bolts under high load, such as braking or having a crash. And in that case the frame would definitely hold the bolts straighter and probably stronger, but in reality the only time that's ever going to happen is if I have a crash, and the result of it is going to be that it's going to damage the floor of the van. If I have a crash, the floor of the van is going to be stuffed anyway, so whatever. Today's task is to fit hot water tank. So this is going to be relatively quick because I've already got the brackets made up. So some little bolts to go through the floor there. We've got the brackets that came with it, so we'll just bolt that down. The polystyrene is the insulation which will go underneath the tank. So I'll poke the bolts up from underneath, and they've got a fair bit of polyurethane around them just to help seal them, because obviously they're going through a hole in the floor, and also to hold them in place once if ever I need to take this off again. So next steps on this will be to trim down the polystyrene and then insulate all the sides and the top, of course. I find things like wiring and insulation are really good filler jobs when you sort of get the mental block and don't really know which way to go with anything else. So simple tasks like wiring and stuff, you can just move on with and don't have to think too much. I'm pretty sure everybody knows this trick by now, but in case you don't, you need to put a pull string through a bit of conduit, tie a little bit of a plastic bag onto the end of it, poke it into the hole like so. Okay, and try not to go too far because now you've got it jammed inside the vacuum cleaner. And then you can spend the rest of the day trying to unjam your vacuum cleaner. This is the worst part about welding any metals, just trying to get everything square and then making sure it stays square when you weld it. The heat that you put in when you're welding stuff just warps everything, right? And aluminium's way worse because it's quite soft. On the plus side, aluminium is quite soft, so you can just give it a bit of a tweak once you're finished and get everything back into shape. But that has taken me the best part of 2 hours. Right, well, that's basically where that bit of framework's going to end up sitting. Just ignore this piece here, it's just a straight as I was using. That's going to be my aisleway between the cupboards, between the kitchen and the wardrobe, fridge area. So that's basically where I'm going to get to for this week. I'm heading up to Sydney for a few days to visit my mother, and so that's going to take me out for most of next week. The week 4 video could be a pretty short one because I'm only going to have like 3 days to get stuff done.